disease is not natural. It's just not, it's normal, but it's not natural.
Most believe genetics cause disease, for which the only treatments are drugs and surgeries.
How could it be genetic if these diseases didn't occur in human history? How could even cancer be genetics if, for example, in the Orient, areas of the world have less than 1% of them have breast cancer? They move to America and about 15% of American women get breast cancer.
Of how much genes contribute to the diseases in our world, and it turns out far less than 10%, probably even less than 5%. And the significance says, well, wait, if genes are only responsible for 5 or at most 10% of the illness on our planet, what about the other 90% of illness? And the answer is, it has nothing to do with genes and has everything to do with lifestyle.
We were intended to be whole and healthy and complete and strong and vital in the world. And if that's not happening, there is a reason. And it is actually something that we've been doing to get in the way of that naturally expressing on its own.
A new health paradigm in the world today is what you hold in your beliefs becomes the overriding determining factor to your health.
People don't see disease as something that's a warning. They don't see like the light goes on in their car and the oil light starts flashing oil, 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 and you bring it to the mechanic, and instead of putting more oil in the car, he snips the wire so you don't see it going off.
We do have documented cases where there is a seemingly miraculous cessation of symptoms. We know that there are people who are told you're going to die within a week who live for another 30 or 40 more years. So I think sometimes we think about and study a little bit too much the places where it goes the way we've heard about it going in many people, and perhaps we don't study enough what happened in that place where a miracle occurred.
A significant factor that affects a cell is what is going on in the environment. The cells are designed by nature to accommodate and adapt whatever's ever going on in their environment. So this is why organisms can stay alive in a world that is dynamically changing. Because if genes said, this is your mechanical way you run your biology, and the world dynamically changes, and I'm still using the old gene program, it doesn't work. So nature was more intelligent. Nature said, I'll make genes adjustable in response to the environment. Cells directly read the environment and adjust their genetics. But humans, the cells that make up our body, don't directly read the environment. It's the nervous system of our body reads the environment, interprets it, and then sends the signals to my cells. So between the environment and my cells, now I have something called perception. It's not always the environment that directly controls our cells, it's our perception of the environment. The one side of the coin is love releases chemicals that enhance your growth and your energy, and that's why it's so healthy to be in love. And the flip side of that coin is if you open your eyes and there's not someone you love, but something that scares you, something that threatens you, then the chemistry that's released from the brain is designed to protect you. Well, to protect you, if I have to run away from a lion or whatever it is, then I want to allocate all of the energy for my fight or flight, otherwise I'm not going to survive. So protection says, when I get in protection, I have to put all my energy into protection. I say, yeah, but what was that energy doing before you needed protection? Oh, it was providing for my growth. When you're in protection, you actually shut down the growth and maintenance of the system. If I would take the chemistry of negative thoughts, which are stress hormones, cortisol, inflammatory agents, and add those to my culture dish, my cells would ultimately die out in that culture environment.
Dr. Mayo from the Mayo Clinic, he said if the mind will make the body sick, the mind will make the body well. You saw 3 different examples on this film of people who were told to go home, get their affairs in order because they were going on the next phase of their eternal journey. But they didn't. They're still here. They refused to accept what the doctor said. They made up their mind they were going to live, and they're still with us. Why? If one person can do it, any person can do it. We've got that ability. Don't accept bad news. Look for good news. Understand it, and then you'll understand how to keep this instrument in excellent order.
I began speaking at medical conferences about my experience with cancer patients and the relationship between mind and body. The reaction of other doctors was quite a surprise. They were very angry with me over my experience. I have found that closed minds do not want to hear or accept anything new if you introduce them to new concepts. It is as if you are shattering their long-held beliefs, whether they're religious or scientific. They prefer to hold on, even when others have seen the truth placed before their eyes. As Shakespeare said, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
There are many cases where patients have a disease and we refer to them as being terminally ill, and everyone counts them out. And then occasionally these terminally ill patients all of a sudden have a remarkable, miraculous, what we call spontaneous remission. And we say, well, how did these people heal themselves? And there's one underlying characteristic of all cases of spontaneous remission, and that is simply this. Each of these people had a profound change in belief that preceded their healing.
When people begin to accept that there might be another answer other than the one that they've been hearing about and other than the treatment programs that they've been exposed to, when they begin to realize there may be another place inside of me, there may be another way of finding a solution to this circumstance I find myself in, transformation begins to happen. And it is in that moment that they are actually moving from a fear-based head orientation to a heartful, soulful, personal intimacy. And that is where healing happens.
Consider the possibility of infinite possibility. That is the hallmark of a spiritually open mind. And the spiritually open mind is home to miracles.
So I've had the honor of witnessing many people turn many circumstances completely around. Circumstances where they were given weeks to live, where they are described as being in stage 5 of cancer, and basically they're sent home to go get their life circumstances in order. And something happens in those individuals that don't follow the plan that was handed to them in that moment. They feel whether or not that feels true for them. And they reach inside and they notice that it doesn't feel so true. Something else must be true. There's some other element in the picture that has to be accessed. And what happens is a decision is made. They drop into this place where they actually begin to establish a relationship with themselves that they have never had before.
I have seen any number of people who have been diagnosed with a terminal illness. My own sister-in-law, 30 years ago, was given 30 days. She's still going strong. I've seen this happen time and time again.
When you change the consciousness, you change the genetics and behavior of the cells. And when you do this with this great intention, you can actually eliminate a death sentence that you've been diagnosed with and rewrite your life.
Absolutely everything that happens in our lives has a spiritual cause. Mental, emotional, and physical events are only effects. Your body has a healing order of priority, and the spiritual always comes first.
And she said, you're actually making your own blood. And it was completely healthy. There was showing no cancer whatsoever in my bone marrow.
Having gotten cancer, I feel liberated. Now, I know that may sound weird, because how do you get liberated from getting cancer? But as a result of the cancer, what I've gone through, I feel liberated, because what cancer teaches you, me, is don't sweat the small stuff. And it really is all small stuff.